This is Matt.
Hey, it's Rob.
We're gonna do a little chat time here. Rob here is a great bass player, and we play together all the time. And he was just saying some interesting things about drumming, and I wanted to capture some of it. So, Rob, as you were saying, we were talking about some of the great drummers, great rock drummers. We were watching some videos, and you know, one of the classic guys came up. One of all of our favorite drummers, John Bonham, came up, and
right.
Rob started saying some interesting things. Rob, what were you saying about John Bonham? You know, the way he hits the drums.
Well, I have a theory that I think he's a light hitter. I think he has a light touch. The whole sound of his kit is holistic because he's hitting the kick drum fully, and then the snare. Even though he's using these tree trunks for sticks, he was still like very light, and that's my theory. I was never there, I don't know, but I feel like that's how he got that amazing tone.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the drummers today think maybe in order to get that sound, like that distorted sound, that you have to hit it hard, which I think is a thing with bass players too. Mm. You know, I've gone through like an evolution where I thought in order to be distorted, you had to really hit the strings really hard, but that's not true. You know, it's there's something else going on entirely. But you know, as far as John Bonham is concerned, that's my theory and that's my feel.
Yeah, you mentioned something as well, something called relative volumes, like within the drum kit. I think that's what you're getting at. There's something about the level at which he's hitting the bass drum relative to the cymbal. Take for example.
Right.
I mean, I always thought that when I listened to him come down on a big downbeat, you know, with a crash cymbal, I always sort of thought, here's a guy that seems to, no matter how hard he hits the cymbal, he seems to always be hitting the bass drum harder than the cymbal, which always creates this incredibly beautiful, like warm pad underneath the splashiness of the cymbal, which is basically, for me, it translates to a very satisfying sound, and also a very warm sound, and also a sound that pokes through the sound of the amplifiers and the band and the singer, but without doing it in a brassy way.
Yeah,
you do it with a low, kind of like if you used a boxer's, you know, analogy. You know, he did it with a blow to the body.
Yeah.
He's not always going for the face, and he works the body, so to speak. You know what I mean? He gets down inside of it and really leverages some real power from the bass drum in order to get to create a total effect.
Right.
With this relative volume.
Was he a big guy?
I think so. Yeah, I think he was a pretty burly guy.
He was like tall and big, and was he? Or
I don't know how tall he was, but I think he was pretty. You know, I think he was a pretty stocky guy.
Because Ant here was just showing us a video while we were doing this. And, you know, he's like, his hands are really up here, you know?
Yeah, during a drum
And I
solo.
wonder, you know, yeah. But I wonder if that's, you know, still, you know, does that mean he's really hitting it with all of this velocity, or is it just, you know,
well,
is he just a magician that way?
I think it's all the above. I think it's all the above. You know, it's also just genuine inspiration. The guy was inspired. You know,
yeah.
I mean, you can't really quantify that. Now, as a bass player, though, you know, when you're thinking about playing with drummers, you mentioned the bass drum and the snare drum. You didn't spend a lot of time talking about the tom-toms. You know, and I don't want you to, but you know, I mean, obviously, what translates when you're playing in a rhythm section for you, apparently, is how the guy's hitting the bass drum and the snare drum.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on with that?
Well, I mean, if you, you know, I mean, the whole thing, it's hard for me to speak. Say the obvious.
It's a big question. It's a vague question. Sorry.
I don't know how to answer other than to say if it's all there and it's comfortable and you're not wincing when the cymbals are being smashed and the snare on the 2 and 4, and you know that's a bonus. And then, but if you're hearing like the kick, and every bass player wants to hear the kick in the monitor, and then you know it's like, can I get more kick? You know, the snare's always there. You know, so. That always surprises me when more drummers don't think about the relative volume. You know, you don't have to hit hard.
Well, the thing about it is, it doesn't look good when you're hitting the kick drum. Kick drum's just sitting there.
Right.
No one sees your foot hitting it.
That's a good point.
You know, a lot of the drumming, because of videos, is now perceived to be coming from the hands. Oh, if the guy's moving his hands around a lot, then that must mean he's good.
Right.
Or that it's exciting, or that it sounds good. Well, it might be good showmanship, but like you're saying, from the bass player's standpoint, it's the art of the way that you hit the kick drum, and the relative volumes between the different parts of the drum kit, that really means something to creating a really nice feel, a nice sound, and beautiful sounding music.
Do you think that people will miss the point with John Bonham, like drummers?
Well, I think that I think just like you said about when getting a growling, slightly distorted tone out of the bass, you have to use oftentimes a light touch. And one thing I have found is that as you hit harder and harder on an instrument, you run into the law of diminishing returns as you hit harder and harder.
You can't go any higher.
Exactly, and that's fine sometimes. Sometimes you want to hit harder, and then you're going to hit that peak, and then you're ready to come down. But if you spend all your time hitting harder and harder and harder, the diminishing returns law kicks in. Whereas when you exploit all the dynamic ranges of any instrument, you don't run into diminishing returns. You are constantly finding the wealth of options that's always growing and always available, and you're always discovering some new path through the music toward creating some type of climax or resolution or something in the music that's surprising not only to the listener but to you as you're creating it or as you're listening to it. It's a beautiful thing, and so playing with dynamics to me is like it's the most important thing, because loud only really means something when you have something to contrast it.
That's exactly right.
Just basically, it's once again, it's relative volumes.
And it's exactly the same on the bass.
All right.
Well, it's exactly the same.
That's our little deal for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Rob, Calder.
Listen, drummers.
There's the finger. You see that finger right there?
Don't go listening to Bonzo and thinking that the only thing you're going to get is that kick drum thing in the ocean. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, he puts the triplets in between the hi-hat.
Let's learn other lessons, okay?
Lessons.
That's not one.
Rob's actually talking to me. He's teaching.
No!
He's passive aggressive. All right. We'll see you later, okay?